welcome everyone to today's Migrating to BricsCAD webinar, where we'll be focusing on additions and alterations as a topic. I'm Claire, the technical pre-sales manager at BricsCAD for the APAC region, and I'll be the one sharing this session today. So, what will we be seeing today, right? What's the focus of today? First, we'll do a brief introduction of BricsCAD, which is basically the software that we'll be using for most of this session, if not all. Next, we'll explore some pain points of A&A works, the benefits gained and the pains dealt with when doing additions and alterations works. Next, I'll just show a little bit of how BricsCAD can help you transform your 3D point cloud scans to a BIM model, or even just a 3D model that's not BIM level, depending on what you need. And we'll use that model to further do a simple redesign afterward. And lastly, we'll do a quick render, very important to create these visualizations and these visuals for your client approvals. My background is in architecture, so I think generally I can also relate to a lot of the times when we need to quickly come out with such types of information, right? Either you just basically provide a quick render or a quick schedule for costing. A lot of the times your clients, our clients, they want to know, okay, how much is this going to cost me? So a lot of the times everyone's asking that, right? So before we go into that, we will just have a quick introduction of what is BricsCAD, what is BricsCAD. BricsCAD is a Hexagon company. It's a leader in CAD software. The BricsCAD product line empowers customers to deliver products and projects quicker for you with smart, cost-effective solutions. So what exactly is BricsCAD? BricsCAD is a professional DWG CAD platform without compromise. It's native DWG even until the BIM level, making it aligned with the 2D workflows and also gives you an easy path to BIM. BricsCAD provides you with a familiar interface, so especially for those transitioning from 2D and 3D modeling, this is the easiest way, I would say, for you to be able to get to those levels. BricsCAD has flexible licensing options as well. So this is really advantageous for those who are quite sensitive about that aspect of the softwares that they're using, as well as licensing and cost advantages are available with BricsCAD. Last but not the least, the BricsCAD R&D team always aims to innovate and is focused on providing you with tools to improve your productivity. So these are just some of the things about BricsCAD that's good to highlight, I would say, and these are some customers that we have who are already using BricsCAD. So one of them is Wilman Construct. They're in building construction. They've been using BricsCAD to be able to convert their building plans into BIM models. Over in APAC side, where we are located, is Esteem Design Services, closer to us in India. So they wanted an easy transition from CAD to BIM. And they went through an entire process for that, and they found that it's easier for them and their entire team to be able to get to BIM with BricsCAD. Lastly, just to share, there's Slick Architects based in Switzerland. And they replaced their legacy CAD product with a combination of BricsCAD Pro and BIM. So these are just levels of BricsCAD, but generally they're quite happy with what BricsCAD has done for them. So that's a quick side note on who has been using BricsCAD. But let's get into the meat of today's session, right? Additions and alterations. Before we actually jump into the software, first, let's just maybe go through why additions and alterations works are done, right? Either by government projects or private building owners and other stakeholders. Why do they do additions and alterations works? Well, there's a lot of benefits. So part of them probably would want to enhance the space that they're using to increase the usable space, enhance the functionality for aesthetic reasons also. Some of them would like to address the wear and tear. Sometimes it's address structural issues as well that come up after many, many years of the building being exposed to the weather and so on. Others choose to do this to preserve architectural heritage, and others do this to increase the property value. So it may be a combination, it may be one of them, it may be all of them, and there may be many, many other reasons as well. But these are just some of the major gains of doing A&A works. I'm sure a lot of us have experienced this in our careers, right? That there's always a project that pops up that's about A&A, especially when the owners want to improve their spaces. Speaking of gains, there's the other side of it as well. So to gain the benefits, to be able to reap the benefits, there are of course some pain points to go through. And if you're part of the entire A&A process, it's difficult to escape these issues. Some of these issues are dealing with poor structural integrity of the building itself. It's not just about fixing those, but it's also how do you plan your works around the building that to make sure that you are safe, your team is safe, the workers are safe when there are already structural concerns at hand. Some may see this also as a pain point that there are new building codes and regulations, especially for older buildings. In most cases, the building rules have maybe already changed from the time the building was initially made. Hence, careful planning is really needed. Another one may be adhering to a strict design style. So these are also especially important as, for heritage projects. It's great if we have all the freedom to propose totally new styles, but a lot of A&A works are done on heritage buildings. Some are on communities, and so on. There are different situations. And this means you really have to consider and preserve the existing design style. And you may not be as free as you would like to be in the design. And lastly, just one major pain point I think that everyone shares and faces would be unexpected cost and time delays. With A&E, it's usually whenever you encounter something that was unforeseen existing conditions of the existing structure. So it's always a bane for building and construction projects whenever we have to deal with time delays and costs, unexpected costs. It raises up a lot of questions. It makes meetings longer, a lot of discussions around these issues. So these are just some of them, the pain points. I'm sure there's a lot more, but these are just some that I'd like to highlight today. And to help avoid these, you would usually want to gather as much information on the existing building before even doing anything in the project. Before even probably thinking of the design, you want to know what's existing first so you can deal with the issues at hand. So nowadays, commissioning a survey for on a point cloud scan of existing building conditions is not really that unusual anymore. The point cloud scans, they help make a record which everyone can reference. It's a single reference that everyone could basically check out, make sure that, okay, what's the existing situation? We need to make sure that everything is A-okay before we do any works there. How we scanned everything. Sometimes it's the nitty-gritty, the level of scan that you need. Depends on the situation. But then after the point cloud is created, what do you do with it? What we're seeing here on the screen is just a screenshot of the point cloud that we'll partly be working on today. It's a multi-purpose area at a golf course somewhere in Australia. So in this case, just to lay out the situation, let's say the management has decided it's time to upgrade the space. They realize that they don't have any record of the space anymore, may have been lost, may have been discarded. Who knows what happened to it sometimes, or was there even one to begin with? And over time, there maybe have been works done on the space already that even if you have a record, that might not be the most updated version. So you want to make sure that you have the existing conditions considered before you do anything. So for this particular project, let's say, the management or the owners of the space, they've agreed to have a survey scan done of the entire building. So perhaps maybe change the windows and doors in the main hall. Maybe they want to separate this area for a smaller meeting room, put in some furniture. Perhaps they've also decided to add another level to increase the activity space in the building. But it can't be too high so as not to obstruct from the view of the greenery, let's say. So they have their considerations in place. Also, they're thinking to add some bristle or sun shading as this side is south facing and has been getting a lot of the heat. So in this case, for this item, they are still unsure about this and would like to see how it would look like, how it would affect the entire building, and how big would these really be against the entire structure. So part of that consideration, they wanted to have a very quick look on also how much this would cost, as well as a quick visual for them to refer to. So with this in mind, we begin, right? So first things first, they had a laser scan survey done and received an E57 file. So this E57 file is a point cloud file format. There are various point cloud file formats. BricsCAD can bring in a lot of these point cloud file formats. In this case, we are dealing with an E57. So where does BricsCAD come in now? BricsCAD can help transform the point cloud scan to a 3D model within the software. We'll bring in the E57 point cloud file into BricsCAD and start creating a 3D or BIM model based on the existing conditions. And later on, you can smoothly ease into your redesign or your proposed design. Lastly, the visualization needed for this project is not render heavy. So there's no need to maybe go into third-party rendering software at this point. BricsCAD can provide the visual that's needed, that the management is asking for. So let's just start with a blank drawing or a blank model file, and we'll insert the point cloud through the point cloud reference manager. So once this is in, you can proceed to inspect and pan around your point cloud scan, which BricsCAD does quite smoothly. And you can change some render properties, like here on the right side, you'll see that panel. You can turn on and off the dollhouse rendering, change your point cloud, point size, adjusting the eye dome lighting, do some gap filling. You can also change your preferred color map, whichever is easier on your eyes. But for today, we'll leave it at scan style to reflect the scan colors. We can also look inside bubble viewers. These are very useful to see sort of like a point of view from the scanner's perspective. So we see furniture inside that bubble viewer. And now we can start building our model. First, I want to align the scan to a 90-degree angle. If you would prefer the same, just because it's easier to manage, modeling from a 90-degree. And if you want to focus on just one part of the scan, you can crop the point cloud itself. For us, it's this multi-purpose area, the main hall that we had highlighted earlier, and you can crop the point cloud to reflect just that space. So we can ask BricsCAD to automatically create a floor plan section and also create spatial elements. These would be very useful later on when we do our documentation. So easily that's created. You can drag to adjust the story bar, cutting plane for your plan view. And we are starting to add our walls. This is quite easy with BricsCAD. There is a wall tool. It helps you automatically detect the wall thicknesses from the point cloud scan. We want to just place a few wall segments. And then after placing those segments, we can immediately automatically connect these wall segments as well. So if you notice, I can easily reach some tools through something that's popping up beside my cursor. That's what we call the quad. It helps to predict which tools I want to use based on how I've been using the software. So now that we have our walls, maybe we can add the columns. There are different ways to create your columns. And for me, I'd like to trace my columns with usual drafting tools, like let's say a polyline, right? It's a very simple tool, but very useful. So similar to the wall tool, the column tool also has parameters or properties that you can change from the panel. There's a column panel as well. And you can just pick up the polylines. So we'll pick up the polylines that we created earlier, and it will immediately create those columns already with the data that comes with it. So in a few clicks, we can also create the slab similarly. Just few clicks, that's it. The model's starting to really take shape now. And we can add our beams. Focusing on what has been scanned. So we keep on referring to the point cloud scan that we have. So just like the columns and walls, the beams also have their own panel in BricsCAD. It also allows us to choose which type of beam to use, or if you just want a 3D solid and further detail that later, that's also fine. You can dictate the dimensions and just place the beam segments in a few places in your model. So we can add a couple more beams based on the point cloud scan as a reference. At this point, we don't really want to worry about having them perfectly placed from the beginning. We're not aiming to be perfect right now. We just want to have them placed first. And later on, we can always do some adjustments. And that's flexible. That's flexibility with BricsCAD too. We can make adjustments to the beams. We can use the manipulator. Manipulator is a very useful and handy tool, I would say. It allows you to just rotate, mirror, shift, move, copy your entities within BricsCAD. And easily, you can also just extend whatever 3D solid you've created. So let's have, for example, the beams, you want to immediately connect them to the columns. That's easily done as well. So right now, we just want to do some push-pull. And if you notice, a lot of the tools that we're using within BricsCAD are already familiar tools to anyone who's been doing either 2D drafting or 3D modeling with direct modeling tools. A lot of it is really just your solid modeling tools as well, if you're dealing with 3D. So moving on now, we want to just every now and then go into the bubble views. In this case, we saw that there's this hole within in one of the beams. This is probably a sleeve for certain either pipes or certain services that they have there. So you can also mark that in and extrude to subtract that portion of the beam, and then you have your sleeve. Again, if you notice, a lot of it is really just push, pulling, extrusion, and so on, right? Things that are very familiar. So let's say we're done with the beams, we can add maybe our windows. In this case, BricsCAD has a simple built-in library of parametric components. So you can easily adjust the position and dimensions of the windows as you require them to be. So whether or not you've placed them already, you can shift them around, and you can also still resize them. So we're adding one here. And if we want to, we can also replicate this on the same wall here, or even in other walls. And in the same manner, we can also add more windows on the other side of our model. So if you notice, we have quite a few windows to choose from in the library. And another thing with this side of the wall, there's quite a few either walls or doors in this side of the wall, quite a few fenestrations, a lot of sunlight coming in through here. And the client or the management of this building, they want to retain these. So maybe we just want to replace these walls and, the windows and doors, right? Make them newer. Maybe some of them are too old. They want to revamp and refresh. So it's just a replacement, direct replacement. So that's fine. You can just assign a new type of door or window where it needs to be. So you can continue working on the model, again, while referring to the point cloud itself and the bubble views in it, if there are any. So we'll just keep on adding a few more here. I think we're more or less done with the windows now. We can add some doors. So again, we're not aiming to be perfect here. we can still adjust all these later on. So it's just good to have the reference from the point cloud, place them, and then you can also always adjust them. So I've gone to a top view mode here just to add the door from a 2D view or a top view mode. Sometimes it's easier to place certain elements or components on a 2D view, depending on your preference. So it is possible to do this from a 3D perspective mode or on a 2D view. So really just depending on what your preference is. So what we've done now is we kind of have the shell of the building. We can always shift things around, adjust whatever we need to adjust, and then we'll have something more concrete as to the first item that was required of us earlier, which was to create a 3D model of this particular building based on the survey, or based on the point cloud scan. So after adding all those things, we'll just clean up a little bit here. There may be some things that you want to further tweak, but that's up to you. At this point, I want to just turn on or like show the point cloud again, just to see if there's anything else we've missed. Maybe we can just also add the chairs that are on here just to make sure they're on record. This is what is in the space, in the existing space in actuality. So we added one chair here, and the same way I can use the manipulator to copy these chairs over and over, or multiple times at the same time. So a mass copy or a mass mirror, and moving, rotating. The manipulator is really very useful. It's something that I'd recommend for you to try. Makes it easier. And it doesn't just work on 2D, it's also on 3D. So if you wanted to rotate anything from a Z-axis, that's also useful. So I think we can just add, like sneak in those tables behind, and then we're kind of done with this space. And have that existing condition for the client's records. Okay, so if you remember, one of the other things that we needed to do in this space was to create a small meeting room, and that's going to be on this side of the building. Right, a smaller one. So we want to close off this area, and that's quite easy to do with BricsCAD as well. You can just change the wall connection and extend the wall quite easily as well in just one click. That's going to be extended to the nearest wall. So we have this new room. Of course, we want to add an access over there, so we can maybe add a simple accordion door. You can always change it. You can always replace it later. But at this point, let's just use this one. You can reposition it, like I mentioned earlier as well. And in this space, we also wanted to just add some furniture very quickly, just to indicate, okay, these are the furniture for this meeting room. Most likely you will want a bigger table. So if you drag something from the library that is not the size that you needed, you can always resize them based on the properties or parameters, and then you can shift them around within the space. So again, we use a manipulator for that. We can add a few chairs, maybe 6 chairs, 3 on each side. That will be good. And we will be done with this space most likely. So just mirroring these chairs, and then from there we can also make sure they're arranged in equal spaces. So a couple of clicks to make sure that happens, but we didn't have to measure anything really, and we didn't have to calculate any distances there. So BricsCAD can help us do that. You can place any other furniture or equipment you need for this room. But generally, we're done for this particular portion, right? So going back to the list that we needed to really accomplish. So what have we done so far? we have created a survey scan record of the building as well as a 3D version of that, created the model, and we've added a small meeting room. So right now we have 2 things checked on the list and we have 3 more to go. So we'll move to that side now, of beginning with adding a second level. So let's get to that portion. So first, let's add a second level, like we mentioned, very quickly, easily done through quick draw in BricsCAD. So aside from that, I'm also just adding a parapet over here, which will also serve as a support for the sun shading we'll add later. So I'm just making it a little bit higher, but not too high, as required by the client earlier. So if you notice, a lot of things we're doing, as I keep repeating, is push, pulling, extrusion, a lot of the direct modeling tools, easy to use, and available in BricsCAD. So I've already picked a ready-made Bristolay panel, downloaded it online actually, and added into my BricsCAD library. This is a very simple one. And I'm just placing it here just to see how it will look against the height of the windows, as well as the overall height of the building. So we can just place a few on this particular side where we don't want to get too much heat from the sun. And at the same time, those spaces might really need those windows for the lighting. So we have to have a solution for that. And these particular panels, of course, we may need them on both levels, as there are also windows on the second level. So it just depends what the requirements are. Right? So right now I'm placing a pair on each side. And again, if you notice, I keep using the manipulator to just move things around and certain axes, because it's very helpful there. And then, like I mentioned, we'll just also replicate this on level 2. Visually, they're on level 1 and level 2, but since we're on BIM anyway, I'll just also want to assign these to the correct story level, so that the information can be included in our schedule later on when we're doing that documentation. So I'll just place them on, this is floor 1 for these floors. And then the other one was for floor 2. So I'll just check those in. And right now, I just want to hide them, so I can concentrate on just bringing in some material here. It's more like test at this point. I made it faster for this part of the session. I didn't want to waste that time dragging and dropping, but it's really drag and drop for all these materials. So that's from the render panel within BricsCAD. It's a drag and drop type of thing as well. And from here, I showed those sun shading panels again, so we can have a fuller view. It's a simple way that you can immediately give a visual to your client. And there are different ways to show this 3D model as well. So there's a shaded view, there's a rendering view, there's a modeling view, there's a shaded with edges, there's a few versions, so you can test them out. So on this side of the model, I'm still missing a couple of brick material here. So just drop them over there right now. So now, after we're kind of almost finished actually with this particular model, what do we want to do next? We want to probably go into documentation so we can get a schedule out for costing that's required for these panels. So in BricsCAD, it's quite easy to do. The documentation is based off of the plan sections or the elevations. So I use BIMify. Just with the word alone, it basically BIMifies your model, adds more BIM information, creates spatial locations, creates those floor plan sections for you. In this case, we now have a floor 1, floor 2, and a roof as our floor sections. And then in the project browser within BricsCAD 2, I can immediately get those section lists here and then create the sheets. So once you create the sheets, it'll just allow you to visualize how those sheets will look like, how many of those sections will fit on each sheet, what's the scale that you want, and so on. So it's up to you. And then when you open the sheet, you'll have something immediately like this. So these are the floor plans currently. You may choose to annotate whichever part is relevant for you right now. So currently, the Bristolay portion is the one that's relevant for us. So that's what I'm concentrating on right now. And then I just want to get this out immediately for costing, right? So I'll just add a couple of annotations here. Very much similar to what you're used to if you're doing this on CAD. It's kind of like mixing that 3D and 2D side of thing in BricsCAD. Now, just showing what the elevations look like coming from the model that we have. Immediately, BricsCAD also provides all these, nothing manual that we needed to do here. And lastly, of course, this is the most important elevation where the Bristolay panels are. So I'll just do a quick dimensioning over here. I just need a couple of them actually, and everything's the same, right? And it's just good to have this visualized for whoever's going to do the costing, as well as in this case, it would be good to have a schedule, even if it's a simple one that we want to immediately bring out. We can always add information to the schedule later on. So in this case, what BricsCAD has are basically bill of materials or schedules templates. And these templates can be configured to show the information that you want. So in this case, I want to filter down instead of beams, right? I want to just filter down to those Bristolays. So these are building elements. And I want to also reflect information relevant to my project. So I want to show the name. I want to show the floor level of where these are, and also, of course, the quantity. That's very important. I think in terms of height and width information, they're there. So I can also sum this up, and just dragging and dropping this particular table into our sheet brings that as part of the sheet already. And if you needed to update anything, you can do so. And at the same time, if you notice over here, we've also just added a couple of views directly from the model itself. So one is an elevation view with the material provided. It also provides just a little bit more visual to this elevation to show where those panels really are, what do they look like, maybe as a color reference, right, if you needed that, and also more of a perspective view on the right side. So you can add more information, you can annotate further, you can change information even, and update the table and update your drawings and sheets later on. So if whatever you add into your project will be part of a project folder within BricsCAD itself, and then you can basically compile all your information for that particular project. So right now, what we actually created is really just a simple sheet. This one sheet alone can be sent out for your very quick costing. And sometimes you need more fancy renders. Sometimes you need more sheets to show the information. But sometimes it's pretty straightforward what you need to do at certain points of the project. And you just pick out, right, whichever one you need at a certain point. So right now, this is what we need. And from here, we will just go back to what we were talking about earlier, going back to the checklist that we have. So let's see. First, we created the survey scan record of the building, and at the same time, we had the 3D model that we've created as well as a first thing that we did earlier. And then we have a small meeting room that we've created with a little bit of furniture that was requested. And now, on the second part, we've added a second level, a few clicks with quick draw, and that second level is done. And then you also have a roof over there. Next, we added some Bristolay panels or sun shading panels. The question was, how will this look? And they also wanted a check on the budget for sun shading. Of course, as part of the model, what we can do to help provide that information would be to bring out those drawings, provide a schedule, provide what's the width, what's the height, either what's the material, who's the supplier, or if there's any brand that you require or that you prefer. So I think we've checked generally what we needed to do for this project at this point in time. It will probably progress later on, and you may be needing to provide more information. You may need to model even more, add more data to your model, and maybe even have another scan at another part of that building or that development, and they will maybe ask you to even add to the model itself or expand that model, right? So it depends. Sometimes the projects grow and grow, and that's how we basically move on. So that's what I have for you today. I hope this is useful for today's session for you guys, and in the future, we'll definitely have more migrating to BricsCAD webinars. One thing that you may have noticed is that we did everything today in BricsCAD, but if in case you wish to further enhance, let's say the render, or you needed some fantastic lighting effects, or maybe there's certain third-party tools that you're just comfortable using. So BricsCAD has direct links with Twinmotion, with Lumion, and if you are comfortable with Enscape, BricsCAD can export FBX file that you can bring into Enscape and basically do what you need to do there. So that's on that side. However, like I mentioned, sometimes all you need is a straightforward image before going in with guns blazing on the renders, right? So that's it for today. This again is a progressive series of migrating to BricsCAD webinars. So we have various topics that we share, and hopefully you'll sign up for other sessions in the future. So again, hopefully this is interesting for you today. We concentrated more on the building aspect. In the future, we may be having other aspects that we'll touch on with point clouds. I'm Claire again from Brix's, and I hope you have a very good day ahead of you. Thanks everyone for joining, and do let us know if you have any questions. And if you have not yet tried BricsCAD, you can scan the QR code on the screen. You can try BricsCAD today and let us know what you think. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.